But welcome, friends, and thanks for coming back. Today's small video is about how to Kolrose a spoon. What is Kolrosing? What the hell is that? Basically, it's a Scandinavian art form. I can demonstrate it a little bit further by just showing you this. This is Kolrosing. So Kolrosing, again, is just a Scandinavian art form where you place incisions in wood and then you rub in fine powders, such as could be charcoal, could be cinnamon. Most people use coffee and cinnamon or just coffee, a couple of different things. And after rubbed in there, you put oil on it, burnish it up, and it's now a part of the wood. And that's what Kolrosing is. So today I was going to walk through just a little bit on how I Kolrose a spoon and possibly giving advice on basket weaves. So this would be a traditional basket weave, and they're a little bit harder than you think, but when you map it out and then you go ahead and you do it, you're essentially doing one of these. So one more time, Kolrosing, we're jumping into it. All right. So first, what do you need? What do you need? What's going on? Well, first things first is you need a spoon. So I just carved this guy literally just the other day. This is walnut. I have a whole bunch of walnut right now. I'm doing a bunch of turning with it, and I've created about a bunch of bowls and things like that. And with the offcuts, there's a whole bunch of material to be able to make spoons. So 2 for 1. This one is tangentially carved. You can see with the concentric circles, just sort of off to the side kind of thing, adds character. And essentially that means you're going from the bark down. So it's got a lot of character to it, but handle a little bit plain. So why not take the time and do some Kolrosing and add a little bit of character to it. So if you ever start to Kolrose a spoon, any advice that I can give anybody is focus on the spoon carving first, learn to make a really nice spoon or a spoon that's ergonomically friendly, and then start doing some of the artwork afterwards. By jumping too far ahead and trying to Kolrose in practice, it does, I'll just stop there. But the point is, go ahead, carve a great spoon, then go ahead and get into the artistry. That's my advice anyway, but do whatever you like. So here we go. Spoon. Once you're doing things with the spoon, the one thing I'd like to just sort of touch on is that you got to watch the neck. Depending on how it's thin, it's carved and things like that, you're going to be putting a lot of time and effort and force kind of in this one area. Just watch where the neck is so you're not putting a lot of force. You're going to try to snap it or anything. So what I usually do is I start off with you can get an old rag, pressing down on that kind of obviously bunches up underneath it. It'll sort of protect it a little bit better. You can do some carving and doing whatever you need to when it comes to that point in it, and you can slide off and you're not going to hurt anybody or yourself or anything like that. So that you can do that way. Another method is jeweler's sandbag. This one's a bit, I got to take some of the sand out of it, but this one actually is not too bad for fine detail work. It really makes it so it's solid and not going anywhere. So you can sit and actually do your work without fearing of putting much pressure on the back end or snapping anything. So I use both. It depends on where I am, if I'm outside or inside the house. Usually I'll use the jeweler's sandbag right near the end kind of thing, sort of making sure I'm getting all the tiny little details and such. So for this so far, I like to sit on this old rag here, so that's probably better, and then we can zoom in a little bit if we have to here. Perfect. All right. So what do you need? You can't just do this with your hands or anything like that, meaning as in fingers. Oh, horrible joke. Oh God, sorry. Rough day today. Not too much coffee. You need a pencil, a good one. Usually a mechanical pencil, because you get the thinner tips kind of thing for what you're kind of drawing. It's in a smaller sort of canvas, so by doing that it's easier to get a smaller thin pencil. Ruler if you have one. Try to make it see-through because you can see what you're doing on the other side. You don't have to, but straight edge of some kind, depending on the artwork that you're doing. I personally use cinnamon, labeled properly. thanks to my wife. Cinnamon's really, really good. I've noticed that coffee sometimes pops a lot more. This guy here is made from cinnamon, so you can see it's a little bit darker. There you go. So not horrible, but I like it to be able to pop, and then again, it's off of the wood that you're using as well too. This guy is birch, white birch. This guy is black walnut. So the walnut on this one is going to be the sapwood, so it's a lot lighter in color, so very much similar to the birch anyway. So hopefully the Kolrosing will pop off and really make it look nice. So I use cinnamon. I have been known to use coffee and a mixture of a couple things. I tried ash in one once. It just, when I was rubbing the ash in, it just really made the spoon black on the top side, and it was hard to get off the remainder of the wood without carving it. So I kind of stayed away from that. So far, cinnamon works the best for me. Oil, any kind of oil, you don't have to use, this is more of a wood wax, you don't have to, you can use actual oil, walnut oils, you want tung oil, anything like that, something to penetrate the wood and make sure that it's going to stay in there. This is just a burnishing tool. I use a few different things from gemstones to a small piece of antler, things like that. What is burnishing? Burnishing essentially is just going ahead and sealing the wood by rubbing it. So you can see it's kind of matte right now, sort of a matte wood finish. Once you kind of rub and just go over top, it doesn't even have to be that intense or too hard or anything like that. You can kind of see there's a bit of a shine there now. So essentially all that's doing is pressing the grains of the wood together harder. So it means that you don't need to sand. I don't actually sand any of my spoons. I just burnish them all when they're complete, and then I go ahead and cure them, and then they're done. So sanding doesn't even exist in the shop. So yeah, what I do is I will burnish the spoon to start. But before we get there, the last thing that we need are knives. Once the imagery is on the spoon itself using a pencil, then you need to go over it with a knife. You can do that with a couple of different things. One, you can actually use a knife. This is a Mora 120, and it was just freshly carved. See, rough day, everybody. Just freshly sharpened. It's got a hollow grind to it, so it's extremely sharp, a little bit thinner, cutting edge kind of thing. But extremely pointy, and a lot of people will just go ahead and grip the blade safely, and then once the picture is on, they will start to go ahead and sort of trace the outline and stuff like that. Depending on what kind of blade or how sharp the blade is, it'll definitely do the job. It's just be mindful of how you're sort of gripping this. Some people will wrap the knife in tape until it's just a small tip near the end, just giving themselves a little bit of room so they're not going to cut themselves. So you can go ahead and do it that way if you'd like to. That's not a problem. I've done spoons that way before. I prefer to use a detail knife. This knife comes from a man, Grant, out in the UK. It was kind of a giveaway, actually. I just sort of threw my name in the hat, and next thing you know, I won. So this, I believe, I think it's elm. I think it's elm handle, but beautiful knife. The blade is by a company called Hewn & Hone. That's Nick Westerman and a bunch of other associates that have come together to be able to make some quality steel. So anyway, this is a detailing knife itself. It's extremely sharp as well, and this is what I use primarily. I just find it a lot easier because it's more like you're actually drawing, you know what I mean? Like if you had a pencil, same thing, but it's the same thing with this. You can just kind of draw and go, and it's safe, and I'm pretty close to the blade, which is what you kind of really want to get into that detail and things. So this is primarily what I use. So from here, what do? I don't start carving right away. I really want to go ahead and put a picture of some kind, right? So I'll start just a quick burnish. Might try to speed this up for time. Just all over. Helps, trust me. We can get into the whole bowl as well too, but for now I'll just put a light burnish on it. I don't need to get hard into it. Usually I'll just sort of put a little bit more elbow grease into the inside of the bowl, just because primarily that's where well, specifically in a kneading spoon like this. Primarily that's where your mouth is going, so I usually try to work it quite a lot. That way it's nice and smooth. But for now, in this video, I'll just do a quick blast, and I'll come back to it later. Alright, that should do it. A lot of people don't even burnish their spoons, and that's totally fine. You do not have to burnish your spoons whatsoever. If you have a really sharp knife, the knife itself, after you're applying your final cuts, is burnishing the wood behind it, so you really don't have to worry about doing it at all. This was done with a pretty sharp knife, but at the same time, I just like burnishing. It's just that kind of like final hurrah. It really makes it nice and shiny, especially specific woods like apple and such. So there we go, more or less burnished. We are good to get some artwork on here and applied. I can just sit and do it forever, but anyway, all right, burnishing complete. So what I will do at this point is I'm going to start, I usually start with an outline. As you can see, it kind of defines the picture a little bit more in what you're doing. It's more like, you know, the outside of a canvas or a frame or something like that. So instead of just going for the picture, I'll usually try to define it by putting an outline in there. So I'm going to pause and come back and show you what I mean, just because that it's hard for me to kind of lean down and get what I need to on here. So I'll be right back and I'll show you what I mean. So this is what I was talking about. Just going ahead and trying to put a sort of a surrounding, actually that looks like a giant exclamation point now that I look at it. It won't look like that once I finish off the basket weave. It's hard for me to lean down in front of this, not knocking the camera out of the way kind of thing, so that's why I'm kind of doing it and then coming back here. But if there's any doubt that I was actually doing this, I'll try to do it right now here for everybody and demonstrate. So basket weaves aren't extremely difficult, but they do require a little dexterity and just some time and just effort. Just again, just really focus and dial in what you're doing. It does get difficult if you start getting all over the place, but what you're essentially doing is mapping out the actual basket weave itself, so it may look confusing. And then after it's done, and then you rub everything over top of it, the oils from the cinnamon itself or the coffee will actually take off any remainder lead that's on sort of the spoon itself, and it'll also maybe work itself into the incisions as well, just darkening everything up kind of thing. So again, one more time, I have gone ahead and just placed an outline here, and I'm just going to start getting into it and putting the basket weave on. So this is where nice straight edge comes in handy. Typically you'd like to try to get the center when you're starting a basket weave of any kind. So I'm going to be drawing a center line just straight down here all the way to the tip. Let's get some of this stuff out of the way, and let's try and, again, I'm doing this for the camera. I'm wondering if that helps. It'll help you guys, and I wonder if it's going to help me. Okay, so I'm usually going to line this up down here, the smallest point. Reason why is because I'd rather come away from that point than try to come into it and meet it. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to hear me say that probably quite a lot, but I believe that's roughly half-ish. Let's do this. You can always start again too if it doesn't look like it's sort of jiving with you. That is definitely not half. I don't know. Let's try that again. And the great thing is you can just erase it. It's not going to come off fully, but it doesn't matter because it's all going to come off later on when you are doing the actual Kolrosing part and putting the coffee, the cinnamon on it. So it's going to move it over slightly, and that shouldn't cause any problems. It might cause problems when you're visually looking at it, but I mean, for the most part, you should be fine. Okay, so I think I'm going to be more like that. Let's go there. This is what I mean by taking your time and being a little bit more dexterous. You know, it was close. Again, not perfect, but I'm just going to go with it. So you're going to hear me say that quite a lot, actually, is that it's never perfect. Most folk art, on a worldwide basis in all cultures is never perfect. If it is, there's something wrong. Like, it's either that or they've used like really amazing tools and come out with some really amazing things. But, perfection, what is perfection? We can sit here and talk about this all day long, but most folk art, especially when it comes to spoons and Scandinavian things, there's actually more of a romance around the fact that it's not perfect. And again, you can even see it with this guy here. You can see down here in the handle, it could have been a little bit straighter, a little bit nicer. I messed up a little bit up here, so it's, again, not crazy perfect, but at the same time, it works. So, that's the enjoyment of it. So now that we have our center line here, it's not too difficult after that. And I'm hoping everybody can see sort of the glare off the light there. So essentially what you want to do is you want to be able to create the straps or the weave itself. So it's up to you how you want to do it in terms of like thickness. For me, I think I'm just going to try to make it a little bit bigger for time purposes. And then we'll go from here and do this. So from the tip at the top there in the middle, you're just going to come down. Now you can do it any angle you want to. The deeper the angle, the less the weave, the kind of lighter the angle, it means you're going to have more basket weave exposed. So for me, right around there is all right. We'll go from there all the way over. So one side, and I'll do the second. Now this is where, you have a ruler that's, you can see through, transparency. You just kind of have a guesstimation. You can pull out the protractors and do all that stuff too, but I don't really care, to be honest. I'd rather just enjoy myself and see where this lies. So from here down a little bit further. Sure, we'll go with that. So not perfect, definitely not. Kind of drifts a little bit here, but it's all right. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes, and this is the start of it. So this is how it's basically going to run. You're going to start here, and you're going to come however thick you feel you want your strap to be. I'm going to be doing a little bit thicker, and you're going to be just creating lines and doing the same kind of angle the whole way down. And then same thing, you're going to go this way. So this way, 1, 2, 3, the whole way down. You're just creating your center point here within the weave itself. It's for visual presentation. So when you look at it, it's kind of, see where the stars are? They're kind of going straight down. It's something like that. It's just so everything looks a little bit visually more set in the eye, but it doesn't have to be that way. I've done some pretty janky basket weaves where it's, and all off to the side, and it looks like it's being pulled off, or some dog ran over it or something like that. I'm like, all right. But it still looks good no matter what, even if you try to attempt it. So again, we'll try our best on this one here, and if it looks a little off, whatever. That's the way art is, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do this now and start putting all the lines on. I'll come back here and we will speed up this video a little bit, and then we'll go from there. All right. So there's the grid. That's how you're essentially starting. Now it just comes down to laying it out. What are you doing? Let me get comfortable here. Alrighty. So as you can see with this guy here, that very center at the very top, when they made that first triangle, that's going to be your starting point. So right here, essentially it's going to be this guy right here. So it might wane a little bit, but it's still, like I said, it's going to be okay. And from this point, we're going to create whatever you want. I do little stars. There's all kinds of things that you can do. I think for this one, I might do my classic stars again. The only reason why is because if I want to experiment and try a couple of things, it's probably not right now. I should just stick with something that I'm used to. So I'll just go ahead and I'll just make a little plus for now, just to give myself the indication that that's where the first one's starting. Now, in terms of the grid pattern, you're going to be doing it in sets of 3 to make a sort of a square pattern kind of thing. So I'm going to go like this. So I've essentially created some kind of quadrant, and that is essentially how you're going to follow the remainder of it. So you're going to go and put ahead and just tether off of this and just complete it off. So if I had a quadrant starting here, then I'm going to be making another one that's attached to it. So I just go like this, right over here. So now it's a 4, this is a 4, 4. So this is all you're doing. You're just spacing it out just like this. So I'll go ahead and I'll put the remainder on. But this is where you also have to be a little bit conscientious of what you're doing, because this is where you can mess up, where you start to just go, oh, it's over here, it's right here, it's right here, it's right here. And next thing you know, you're wrong, and then you've placed it sort of off kilter completely, and then it gets difficult to try to actually put a proper basket weave on here. So you're just one step over, that's all it is. So that's where that next one is here. That's where it is. And just continuing the pattern. Even if it's off the map there, or off the area that you've designated, it's okay. Like I said, art has no boundaries, especially in folk art. Now it should be here. Can't really get it in there. We'll try to work it in there. That's the best I can do. So, yep. We're good. Okay. We are good. So, there we are. I've basically mapped out all of the stars kind of thing that are going to happen. So that's essentially giving you the remainder sort of freebie as to what's going on now. So this is super easy. Just again, this is where the dexterous comes in, and the just remembering what you're doing. You're essentially making T's the whole way around now. If you see this guy here, you're just making 3 squares by 3 squares and making T's just all over the place. So without getting confused, typically what happens is you just choose the direction that you want to start. So if I was going to make a T, then I've got 3 squares here and 3 squares here. That would be the first one to start if I wanted to do that. Now I'm just making sure I could do 3 this way if I wanted, 2 out that way, and continuing along. So by choosing the 3 squares that you want to have the directions to be going, I'm going to go like this. All you're doing is putting a line, and this is basically telling you the direction that they're going to. Am I doing that correctly? It's easier if I start this way. So there's my 3 squares. There's 2 heading in this direction, so that's how that's going to work. And then you've got 3 over here, and then that's going in that direction. That's going in that direction. And this is going in this direction. Now, it might seem confusing, but what I'm doing, I'm kind of speeding ahead a little bit, but all you're doing is, again, you're starting the weave. So this, I went over the line on this one here. So that's the direction that I want. Then it's going to meet this juncture right here, which is a 3. And then it's going to continue on this side. So it's going to go like that. This 3 squares is now hitting these 3 squares. So I'm going to go like this. So it's going that direction. But this is also going to continue. So now you're going like that. It's, again, making the T's all the way around. Now these lines are only here for me as a marker or a point that you can reference that this is the way, the direction that you're going to carve. Because once you're done, you're essentially going to be rubbing these out so you won't see them any further. Okay, I think that's it. Boom, boom, boom. There we are. So, there it is. Looks confusing as hell right now. It literally looks something out of a Matrix. Like, what the hell are you doing? But that's exactly, this is the map to follow to be able to finish everything off. It's extremely easy once you need to do it now. So, if you watch this, see how the basket, it looks like it goes over and under and over and under? Well, you're going to do the same thing here. So, now is the point where you're going to go ahead and pull the knives out. And the pattern will expose itself afterwards once we get through this. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'll do a small demonstration, then I'm going to pause the camera, come back, and show you the entire thing in its full. And then we'll go ahead and start rubbing the cinnamon on and doing the rest of it. So I'm using my trusty detailing knife. Here we go. So I typically start off by doing the outside edge. You're just going to go ahead, I usually start at the top somewhere, place it into the wood itself, and then slowly follow the line. If you make a mistake, okay, it's all right. So that's the first outside line. You guys get the gist. All you're doing is you're following the lines. But I'm going to go ahead and do this whole thing, and I'll come back. But when you see, this is the reason why that we did make these direction points, because now I'm going to outline. So each direction point is, I'm just going to now box it in, boxing it in this way. So now you're essentially creating the actual basket weave itself by boxing in those lines, and those are the directions you follow. Super simple. Again, it just takes a little bit of practice. So I'm going to bang this whole thing out, and we'll be right back to be able to do the cinnamon rub. All right, and we're back. So what I essentially did, and I just spared everybody because I'm just like copying more or less what's on here, is I took the knife and I outlined the entire picture itself. The guidelines were guiding me in the way to basically box everything in, and then I just followed it along. Now, one thing I didn't do was sit here and individually box in a certain area and keep turning the spoon and turning the spoon and turning the spoon. You don't need to do that. What you can do to expedite the process is you basically essentially follow the lines itself. So starting here at the back, this would be my first direction that I'm going to go to box in. All I'm going to do is trace one side and stay here. Don't twist the spoon or anything. So now you can see the remainder of the areas that you got to do the exact same cuts over and over again. So I cut here, I looked for the next one, I cut here, and I just kept following the lines along. I didn't twist the spoon once the whole way. Once I completed the one side, then I twisted it over, and then I would go ahead and start to do the other lines the other way. That way now you're actually boxing it in by default, and you're just sitting there tracing the lines. You're not going ahead and twisting the spoon, doing a box, twisting a spoon, doing a box, twisting a spoon. It's going to look really, really junky if you did it that way as well too. You can if you want, but this way is a little bit easier and more expedited. After that, I went over each individual cross to make sure that they were there. And again, all I did was line down, didn't move the spoon, line down, line down, line down, line down. And I just started touching them all, basically just pressing into the wood. Then I turned it on its side, and then I was able to just line down the whole way across. And you just get them all done in one shot without spinning the spoon all over the place. So that's it. Now, one thing I also did was I created the embellishments as well too. So on each individual line here that is insinuating a box of the weave, if you look real closely, there's little tiny lines that I just put in touching the T here itself. Those lines are supposed to be like, again, like stress marks on the actual weave of the basket itself. And the stress marks just make it look a little bit nicer, like it's actually a weave kind of thing. So when you break it down, that's essentially it. So I'm done with the knife right now. I'm going to pop this guy down here. We'll zoom in a little bit to see what I'm doing here when it comes to the cinnamon. Now, this is an old rag. I don't really give a crap about it. So this is where it's going to get a little bit messy, but it should be all right. Ground cinnamon. And this is the wax as well too. I prefer using an actual oil itself. I usually use walnut oil, drip that on, and it's actually a lot easier instead of smearing the wax, but you'll get the same effects with the wax anyway. So what I do is, well, I guess I can move this out of the way. I'm just going to go ahead. Let's crank it on in for this. I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon. You don't need too much, to be honest, because there is a lot. You're actually putting a lot of individual flecks, particles of cinnamon, that kind of stuff. Now you're just working it in. You're still going to see a lot of the pencil marks. They start to slowly wear away as you go ahead and you rub this in. But where they'll really kind of rub away is in the addition to the oil. So I think I missed this down here, the handle, and I'm actually kind of glad I did. I really wasn't feeling that. So we're just going to rub that out kind of thing. It'll be gone. Let's rub one out, everybody. Anyway, so that's it. It seems like there's enough cinnamon in there. I'm going to take a shot and say I got a majority of it. And that is it. So for cleanliness sake, just going to bang this guy off. Now the shot smells like cinnamon. Again, rag, I'm not really worried about. So there it is. That's just the cinnamon hit. So I've rubbed it in. It's all good to go. Now I'm just going to put some oil on top of it, and you're going to watch as the rest of the pencil marks will be taken away. It'll get much richer and darker, and the oil will just seal it to keep it in. And then after that, a little cinnamon on the knuckles there, we're going to burnish again over top of it and just kind of seal up all of the incision work. So here we go. Let's take a little bit of this guy. Ta-da! See it getting darker? This is a combination of the lead itself, the cinnamon, as well as the oils. So it's looking good, but at this point, you can actually now review your work to see what lines you missed. I'm classic for missing lines, so I usually have to go back over and just do a couple more, but I think I might have got everyone on this this round. Now, one thing I don't do is once I'm sort of rubbing the oil in, to rub the rest of the spoon down, because now you have cinnamon-rich oil. So you want to try to take as much of that off if you don't want to try to dye the spoon. So I'm just going to wipe this away. Hopefully it hasn't done too much to the spoon itself. Doesn't look like it. Do I say it? Ta-da! That's it. That's literally it. Now, as you can see, the majority of the pencil marks are gone. You can see a little bit left in there, but I'm going to do some more burnishing, and I might add a little bit more oil again. And that way it's going to make it a little bit richer. So, like I said, I don't rub all of the oil that I was just using all over the spoon itself, because you're going to kind of darken it with the cinnamon, although it does give a nice little patinaed look. This guy here, I did not. I just did the handle, and I left the remainder of the wood on its own. This one, I'm not really sure. I honestly don't really care too much. So I'll just grab a little oil anyway. I can come back and burnish later if I want to make it even smoother, even after applying the oil. So in this case, it's wood wax for all of you hardcores out there that want to remain technically correct. Alright, so there's the wax all over the spoon itself now. There it is, Kolrose. It's not, you know, an amazing design. It's just a basket weave, you know. And from there, let's do a little bit of that. A little burnish over top. Smooth as butter, baby. That's it. You can take off any excess if you'd like to. But for me, this is going to cure now in front of a fireplace. So I have my fireplace inside. I'm going to smear it up pretty thick. And then it's going to go in front of the fire, not directly near it, but close to. And it'll slowly just cure overnight. So, cinnamon everywhere. That's it. That is all. You guys get it. You see the gist. If you follow along, that's how you do a classic basket weave. These are the essential tools that you'll need in order to do the actual act of Kolrosing. And before I sit here and start blabbing on forever, I'm going to say thanks for dropping in. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And there is much more when it comes to the artistry of the spoon and how to be able to do it on your own. Thanks again, gang.